Hello, welcome to the West Ham Way YouTube. Myself, Mark Carlow, and Riley Finch. Following a very, very poor and disappointing 2-0 defeat to Brentford, it's pretty much in line exactly what we were saying, Riley, wasn't it? I don't think either of us were very confident at all. I don't think any of our fans were really. I did always think that they would score first, and I think that was an uphill battle. Before we talk about David Moyes, then just quickly on the game, what were your thoughts overall? Did you see an improvement or much of the same? What were your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's probably quite important to note, like at least David Moyes made changes. We spoke in the last video, doing the same old rinse and repeat sort of formation and tactics just shows you kind of given up. So, I mean, if we're gonna really, really try and find some positives here, at least he's trying to make a change. Going 5 at the back, dropping Thomas Souček for the first time in, I think, God knows. I mean, it's his first league game. I think it's the first minutes he's missed of the league games this season. I'm fairly certain he started and played every single minute of Premier League football this season for us, but maybe a couple of minutes that I miss him. But I mean, the fact that he got dropped was pretty important. And I thought the first sort of 15 minutes or so, we looked okay, dangerous from set pieces. But then, as soon as that goal went in, and it was such a simple goal as well. I mean, I don't know how Fabianski can just palm it. It's a pretty simple save, but I don't understand how he just palms it so easily into the path of Ivan Toney. And I mean, the second goal was even fucking worse. It's like Creswell just gave up. I mean, like he's running off the ball.
He actually got out of the way, didn't he? I think the problem is Creswell, he's got no pace. So it's almost like, because of last season's red cards in the Europa, it's almost like it's scarred him now. Like if a player gets in behind him, it's almost like he just goes, "Oh, look, I'm not going to do anything. I can't do anything because all I can do is literally drag him down." It's just bizarre.
Really, but I mean, other than that, I thought, Brentford weren't exactly they didn't put on a masterclass. They scored 2 easy goals. We made it easy for them again. We didn't really have much going forward. Paqueta, I think, again, is being misused in the pivot. He needs someone in there with him. He can't just be there with Rice and Paqueta. Creswell doesn't work well in the 3-back system. Maybe it worked better when Aged comes back. I don't know. But and again, Scamacca, he got very little service. He's obviously not being played in the right position. Similar to the sort of, I don't want to say it, but similar to what happened with Haller, I can see happening with Scamacca, unfortunately. And it just looked a very sort of disappointing performance. And I was working at my job last night, and a lot of West Ham fans came in after the game, and I think the mood definitely. I haven't spoken to a single West Ham fan who is confident or happy that Moyes is still at the club at this point in time of recording.
No, I don't think there's many. I think, myself, I'm certainly, had enough now. I think he's come to the end of his road. The players aren't fighting for him, Riley. We've said about it in the Arsenal game. Like you say, I think, okay, it was refreshing to see a bit of a change to lineup. But ultimately, I still think it's a bit too little too late. It should have been changing things up a long time ago this season. It clearly wasn't been working for a long while. And so he should against Leeds as well, because it looks like he's going to be here for the Leeds game now. Obviously, the club now, we've got some news from ex-WHU employee who said that he's spoken to people at the club, top sources, and they fully back the manager, apparently. So he's going to be staying for the time being, which I don't know. I don't know whether I'm surprised or not, really. A part of me is, and a part of me just thinks, well, I'm not overly shocked either, because it would have been probably quite shocking if they had sacked him straight away. My gut feeling was always going to be that we lose to Brentford, and then there'd probably be a couple of days later from pressure that they might have a couple of meetings and have a chat. But clearly they've decided to stick with him for the time being, which I think is a mistake.
I actually don't, to be honest, mate.
Oh, really? You think it's right to keep him?
I think it's right to keep him because no one else is available. That's the only reason. I think Moyes, his time is up. I think we do need another manager in there, but I honestly would rather David Moyes in charge right now than Scott Parker or Sean Dyche, because we've seen what he can bring to West Ham United. Sometimes it's better the devil you know than the devil you don't. Do you know what I mean? Like we had Moyes in charge. We brought in someone we thought would be better than Pellegrini, and he got us more in the shit than Moyes did in the first place. And I'll tell you what, mate, I'm more terrified of Mark Warburton being in charge of West Ham United than I am of David Moyes.
Yeah.
And there is no one available at this current point in time to where you can say, let's sack Moyes and bring him in. I mean, yes, we can
I do know what you're saying. I do kind of, I do see your point. I don't agree with you. I do think Moyes needs to leave his job. I actually don't know why, and I'm probably one of the few that believe this, but I actually think Parker wouldn't be a bad appointment in the short term. I just think he's probably got the right attitude just to get us going a little bit. So it's a risk. It's an absolute risk. But at the end of the day, mate, we're now 25 wins in 24. I mean, I need to look really at the whole year. But I mean, I think, yeah, that's right. So I think a whole calendar year, we've won 5 games out of that whole year. 5 league games in the whole of 2022, which is just...
In the whole calendar year?
I believe so, yeah. I think it's 5
league
games
games in the whole calendar year?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, the whole calendar year, we've won 5 league games. That's what I believe it leads to. I do need to double check that, but I'm pretty sure that's true.
I mean, if that's true, I mean...
Yeah, that's right. I believe that's true. Yeah, so 23. Yeah, so we've had 20. Yeah, out of the calendar year, we've won 5 games all year.
Wow.
Which is... I just don't see how he can keep his job for that. And I just think, like you say, I know it's a risk with Parker. It would be a risk, but I just think that we're kind of just walking into relegation now. I really do think it. I mean, on the positive side of it, with last night, I did think, as you say, it was slightly improved. It was a little bit of improvement. I like the fact they changed the lineup. I like the fact Souček's been removed from the side. That was really nice to see. I did think the midfield looked a bit better, a bit fresher. I thought Paqueta was a bit more improved, a bit more on the ball, which was good to see. I mean, I will talk about him in the next video. I'm still not overly convinced of him, to be honest. I don't know really where this is going for Paqueta, really, whether this has been a total nightmare or it's going to suddenly deliver. I really hope it does, but I'm still got my concerns. But ultimately, mate, we lost again, and I'm stunned that David Moyes is going to be here for Leeds. I mean, I really think that, you know, it's come to the end now. I do think they do have to do something. My gut, I know we talked a little bit off air on this, and I know you don't agree with me. My gut tells me now, and I know I've done like a bit of a broken record, but I do think the Leeds game will probably be his last one. I think if he goes to Ellen Road and loses again, I mean, you can't surely lose 6 games on the spin. Like, you can't. How can you lose 6 Premier League games? So if Pep Guardiola lost 3, maybe 4 games, he'd probably be sacked. Same for Klopp, same for Moyes can't lose 6 and then just sit there and go, yeah, no, we're still backing him. He's got. It just can't happen.
Is Rodgers not a good sort of example of sticking by your manager, though? I mean, like, you know, Leicester had every right to sack Rodgers. They were bottom of the league at one point, hadn't won in so many games, playing very bad football. Obviously, the transfer debacle they had wasn't great either. But who could they have gotten in at the time that would be better than Rodgers? And they said to themselves, we have no one who's better than Rodgers at the moment. There's no one in the market that we can really get in that we know is going to be better than Brendan Rodgers. So let's just give him a chance. And to be honest, I know it feels like a lot later in the season, but we are only 17 games in. Like, Europe is done for this season, and the difference between finishing 10th in the league and finishing, 16th or 15th is not huge. It's not a massive difference. Yes, you get a bit of money difference, but it's not as if we can bring in a manager and then we're going to get Europe. Europe's gone. It's absolutely gone. Right now, the mission is to stay in the league. So why not give Moyes a couple of extra games just to see if he can possibly turn it around? Maybe. I think he's lost the dressing room. I don't see him turning it around. But why not just give him those 3 or 4 extra games at the end of January? And at this point in time, GSB should be looking at a manager. They should be contacting clubs, doing it secretly through the grapevine, and seeing who the next possible appointment would be. I mean, even if Moyes lost his job after the Leeds game and we appointed Parker the next day, Warburton would still be in charge for our next league game.
Possibly, I know what you're saying.
Sure.
I do, yeah. I know what you're saying.
Don't get me wrong, mate. I want Moyes out. I'm not convinced on Parker, but then again, I think if the players are convinced by him, I mean, obviously the board aren't that convinced by him, because surely they would have appointed him, would they not?
Well, no, I don't know. I don't know what the story is. I think that, I mean, the message that X put out was that the board, the line from the board was, if we were going to get a manager in now to get us out of this mess, then David Moyes would be that manager. He would be that type of guy we'd bring in. So it makes no sense to get rid of him. Which it doesn't really make much sense, that though, because he's the man that's dragged us into the situation. He's overseen it. So I don't really know what they're talking about. And we're not talking about a style of manager. I don't care about the style of manager. We're just talking about a different face, just to freshen things up and lift the mood and lift the fan base and get everyone a bit behind it. Because I think David Moyes seems to have just lost the players. I mean, the one thing I will say that's a bit of a positive, like you said, we are sort of grasping at straws a little bit here for positives. But the one thing I will say, which I do appreciate now, and I'm glad they're finally seem to be waking up, is that they're now acknowledging that we're in trouble. Rice has come out and made very big statements about, we're going to put this right, stay with us, have faith, we're going to turn this around. Rather than last week against Arsenal, or not even last week, a few days ago, his words were, this is a blip, basically shut the fuck up, what you're talking about, there's nothing to worry about, and sort of shrugging his shoulders, where he's now completely done a U-turn and said, right, we're going to really turn this around. And I'm guessing we're going to hear something similar from David Moyes as well, I'm sure. I mean, I did see his comments after the game, which I thought were a bit odd, him saying how well we played. We played really well in the first half. And even the second half especially, we played well. I
hate it when he does that. He comes out every single game.
Are you watching, David? Like, we weren't good. Like, we were good for about 10 minutes in the first half when we got home. That was our best spell. After that, we were pretty toothless. Let's be honest, we never really looked like scoring. No. I mean, once they scored their first, I think I just knew we wouldn't score. Well, that's it. It's game over. We've lost this match. So for him to come out and say it was a good performance was bizarre. But I actually spoke to X as well a little bit earlier, and he was talking to me about a couple of people at the club and stuff, and he actually said that the players... Oh, no, that's right. I think he put out his message as well. He said the players also felt that that was a much improved performance, that they were actually a bit unlucky. I'm still not quite sure about that. Whether they feel, I'm not convinced we were that unlucky. But they keep saying, it's the fine margins. That's the problem. It's the fine margins. No, it's shocking defending. That's not fine margins. Fine margins are when, accidental penalty or handball or something like that, it's gone against you and you think, or we've hit the post 5 or 6 times and then it just didn't have fall for us today. It didn't happen. That's fine margins, not terrible defending. And then saying, poor West Ham again. And it was like, well, like you said, the first goal was shocking. The second was even worse. And they both came from throw-ins, if I'm right thinking. I think they both came from throw-ins, which is ridiculous. You know what I mean? You learn this at school.
I mean, do you know what? It feels like we're right back where we bloody started. Do you know what I mean? Like when Moyes took over the club, we were in the shit. He got us out of the shit, and then Pellegrini came in, and we got even more in the shit. And then Moyes came in, and it felt like stuff was turning around. It felt like there's a bit of energy about the squad. It felt like, these things weren't, these blips, they weren't going to happen anymore. We were actually transforming ourselves into like a side that was fighting between sort of 10th and possibly even 4th. It just feels like we're right back where we fucking started again, mate. I mean, it's depressing. All this, like, we're going to put it right. I mean, you put it right, and where are we now? Like,
I agree. I don't know what it is with West Ham United, but why we have a horrendous culture, and it's not just now. We're talking about going back. I mean, when I think I was born, we had the famous 85, 86 season, which was the year I was born. So obviously I didn't see that, of course, but and I remember it was an amazing time because we had such a brilliant season and we were winning every week. We were home and away. We were just winning and basically should have won the league. We were that good. We just slipped up right at the death. The following year, we got relegated, or nearly got relegated. Then the Tuesday we were relegated. It's always like a doom hanging right along the horizon for West Ham. If you remember, we had that great season with Payet. We had the Bolin season. It was so great. Mark Noble coming out and going, look, this isn't a circus anymore. We're going places. The following season was shambolic. It was, our best player went on strike. And now it's happening again. We've just had a great time and we've got to Europa. We just bought loads of players. Everyone's getting a bit excited. And where are we? We're now talking about relegation. The club have even put out a statement in the bloody in their accounts, the end of year accounts, to say that we're preparing for relegation. We're gearing up towards, not say gearing up towards it, but they've made a contingency plan to deal with relegation. They're actually talking about it. I mean, you just spent £85 million on 2 footballers, and you're both now going, well, we could go down this season now. It's like it should be. It's meant. I mean, do Tottenham have that in their end of year accounts? Of course, they bloody don't. They don't sit there and go, "Well, we start prepping just in case we go down." They'd be like, "It's not even considered." Arsenal don't consider it. We shouldn't even be considering relegation. It shouldn't even be our thought process. But for some reason, we're in it again. We're just in the mire. I can't believe it. And
do you not think there's a weird sort of coincidence that both times we spent big money, we've pretty much gone right down? When Pellegrini came in and spent 80 million on, and let's be honest, good players. They were good buys. Apart from maybe like Roberto, obviously, I would attribute a lot of our downfall to Roberto. I mean, he was absolutely awful. It makes Fabianski like fucking Neuer, the Polish Neuer.
Exactly.
But then we spent 150 million in this summer. The season we got Europa League football, we spent 5 million, mate, on Soufal. So I don't understand.
I don't know what it is, mate. And this is even with different people in the helm, not just managers. Like Rob Newman's involved. I mean, Rob Newman came from Manchester City, who helped build them into a force. He's now come to West Ham and going, don't worry, everyone, leave this with me. I'm going to go out here and find you the best players. He's the one that's recommending Paqueta.
But
He's
he has
the one
done that.
Scamacca's your man. He's going to be a brilliant striker. Well, he's done fuck all. He hasn't done anything. Like, you know, I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I know he's got the potential, but I'm a bit tired of hearing potential. I'm getting bored of hearing this, and they need time to settle. Well, do one now. Like, I'm being rude. Like, we had Dimitri Payet, who came into our squad. He was brilliant from pre-season. Like, he looked great. We could see straight away, wow, what a player we've got in our plans here. He looks a very, very good player. I've not seen anything from our players really that suggests that we bought a really bunch of good players here. They look very bang average. It's about time. I know we're going to talk about this in another video, and then we're kind of going off topic here, but it's about time they started stepping up, because I'm getting a bit bored of this sort of, you know, the players have to, as much as we're criticising David Moyes every week, it's time for the players start taking responsibility as well. The likes of Jarrod Bowen, okay, he hasn't been that bad, but where's the Bowen that was in the England squad that was like terrorising defences? Where's he gone? Like, you know, Ben Rama's been pretty good, to be fair to him. I can't criticise him, but I mean, Antonio was shocking yesterday. He really was poor, and he come on like he's awful. Like, where are these players that are supposed to step up? It's about time they woke up and started now. If they are going to stand by Moyes, which looks like they are now for the time being, it's about time he started bollocking these players and get them in and say, right, you're fucking got to start now playing some football, because it's getting to a point where we're sleepwalking towards relegation. I just can see we are. I know what you mean. I know it's still early days, mate. But what worries me is that, you know, you were saying about January, saying, well, Moyes probably got to January, end of January, and then we'll see where we are. But the problem is, we've got this run of games. I'll just bring up my phone again. I know we mentioned this previously. So you've got Leeds away.
Leeds, Wolves, Everton, isn't it?
Leeds, Wolves, Everton, correct. Yeah, we've got Brentford in the middle of that in the FA Cup, which I just think completely just play the kids and write it off. I just don't think we've got time to have a FA Cup run this year. We don't want we don't need the distraction of it. Although having said that, winning does breed confidence. So if we were to go there and get something, it might help us lift us before those other games. But then it's the games after that, mate. So if Moyes doesn't deliver in those next 3 league games, he's then got Newcastle away, which, I mean, we're not going to get anything there. They're flying this season. Chelsea at home, I mean, I don't fancy us that. Tottenham away, no, I don't fancy us at all. Then Forest at home, which is going to be I hate to say it, a relegation scrap, a 6-pointer, you know. And it's like, God, it's so worrying. And then before you know it, mate, we're in March, you know, and then we've got some. Again, I'm looking at March, Brighton away, Aston Villa at home. Okay, it's winnable. Then Man City away. So March is pretty much one game we've got a chance to get in something.
Well, look, mate, it's been a bit of a topsy-turvy 2022, all right? But, you know, we're going into the new year, 2023. Maybe new year, new West Ham. You know, maybe Moyes has got his New Year's resolutions out. You know, he's got a nice little list on there. Don't play Souček, make a couple of changes. Subs after the 60th minute. Don't be an idiot. That sort of thing. I mean, maybe it's going to be a new David Moyes in 2023. But you know, all I can say is Happy New Year to everyone. It's been a good. It's been a good year, mate. 2022. I think it's been a topsy-turvy year, but hopefully,
I think you're right. I mean, if we look back to the memories of this year, 2022, you've got the Lyon, which is probably the pinnacle, the highlight of the year, really. And it was a great Europa League run, and I think everyone's absolutely grateful for him. And also, let's not forget, we're doing well in the conference. You know, we've cruised through the conference, and everyone sort of goes, yeah, but you're playing like, you know, smaller teams. Well, don't forget, Tottenham didn't even qualify out of the group, so it's not actually as easy as people keep laying it out. I think it is
Tottenham really well. Shit.
Yeah, there is that reason. But so you're right, and I do want to try and keep it on a positive, like you say, and it is hard. It is hard to do that at the moment. But you're right; it's a new year. But you know, at the end of the day, like Declan Rice said, if a couple of wins, it will just turn everything. And he's right. But the problem is, where are they coming from? I don't see us going to the road and getting 3 points. I'm not saying it's impossible. Of course, it's not impossible. We are capable, but the way things are at the moment, it's just so unlikely, isn't it? It'd be such a shock result. But let's wait and see, mate. Let's just hope, you know, 2023 delivers and we can, you know, start afresh and hopefully they can dust themselves off and get a result, because it looks like for now, David Moyes is going to be the manager.
It does look like that way, mate.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Cheers.